Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to another review on the channel. Yes, I'm smashing through them at the moment. I've already put up the review for Civil War at this point, and now I am reviewing Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one. First of all, I want to know what your thoughts are on Rebel Moon Part 1 and also Rebel Moon Part 2, because I know that Rebel Moon Part 1 got an awful lot of negative reviews, including from myself. I did not like the film. I thought it was dreadful. This film, believe it or not, is better than the first one, but that doesn't make it a good film. This film is still a bad film. It's only slight improvements in certain areas. The film itself is still soulless, and I'm going to still kind of go in and have a talk about it, and go through everything like that. I guess I need to start off by saying that I may get a few angry, Zack Snyder fans coming in and, having a going saying, "Oh, you call this film bad, it's actually really good, blah blah blah, we really enjoy it." Especially with this review in mind, I'm actually giving it, or I've given it on my own personal letterboxd, a higher score than the average. I gave it a 2-star out of 5. That's higher than the average this film currently has. I feel like I'm being quite nice to this film um, in general, because this film was truly bad in a lot of the senses, a lot of the facts, and a lot of the things from this film, the problems with it stem from part one and stem from kind of the fact that they were filmed back to back. This not much has changed from this film, from part one to this film. Like, the cinematography hasn't changed, the writers are still the same, the setting is still the same. It's going through with the story that it's set up in the first place, going with a Severed Samurai kind of angle on this one. And the issue is, the first part was so badly received that, of course, the second part would also be quite badly received because they were filmed at the same time. They're meant to be watched as a two-parter. Not only that, but the whole point of these films in the first place was for Zack Snyder to make his own Star Wars. And the issue with this film is that he failed in doing that in the first one. It's just a continuation of the first one on top of that. This film is soulless. It's lifeless. It's just a CGI background on some actors, and the acting in front of it isn't even that good. It's awful. And the success that Star Wars had came from the fact that the world felt lived in. It felt like it had a story to tell, whereas this world that's being set up, that's being built, has absolutely no story to tell in the first place. That's where it's immediately failed from the off. Even if it had the best dialogue in the world, nothing would save it from the horrific CGI backgrounds, the unusual character settings they put in place, the bizarre choices in kind of camera framing and camera work and everything like that. It's just, overall, it feels like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, and nothing is sticking. I'll give you a rundown of the synopsis here. So the rebels gear up for a battle against the ruthless forces of the Mother World. As unbreakable bonds are forged, heroes emerge, and legends are made. I'll be perfectly honest. One of my biggest issues with this film franchise, now that we're 2 films in, is I wouldn't be able to name a single character outside of Korra, who is the main character. I wouldn't be able to. I can name the actors. I can name loads of the actors in this film and stuff like that, and I can kind of point out their performances and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be able to name one. Maybe is it Titus? I need to actually have a look. Yeah, Jimon Honzao, Titus. Other than that, Korra, that's it. I can't really name any of the villains. I could barely name was it Motherworld, Homeworld, whatever they're calling it. It's, even though that's quite a generic name and it's quite easy to remember, this film doesn't spend enough time building up kind of the universe. It spends a lot of time building up individual characters within the universe and trying to give them backstories. And this is the thing that this film was. This film was, okay, we've introduced some characters from the previous film. Let's actually give them a reason as to why they don't like the Mother World. Let's give them a reason why they're choosing to fight, which in some sense was something that was probably needed a little bit earlier on. Like, it's not like, they could have done that in the first one when they were all being introduced. They could have given them kind of reasons to fight instead of just having them, yeah, sure, I'll jump on board and stuff like that. But there are so many convoluted backstories in here that are all thrown together that you start to kind of blend the characters together. I wouldn't be able to tell you one individual backstory outside of the Scargiver herself. and the fact that she killed the princess or something like that. Like it's so confusing and so convoluted. There's so much that's been put into it. You'd need multiple books or the Wikipedia page up whilst watching this film to actually understand it, which is never good. Films need to be understandable for the people actually watching them, otherwise the general audiences are going to shut off. And this film has been made for the general audiences. It's been released on Netflix. It's been advertised on their homepage. It's a Zack Snyder film. People understand. They recognize the director's name. It's a sci-fi epic. Those are usually quite successful. This is crazy how they failed at this film so hard in so many different areas. It's absolutely fascinating. So I'm going to go into the positive now. The one big positive from this film that I picked up was that the action sequence towards the end, where they actually have to fight, the Seven Samurai sequence, was okay. Not good, it's passable. It's absolutely passable as far as the film's concerned. Why couldn't they have done that in part one? Why do they have to stretch out the story? Why do they have to go to a docking yard or something like that in the first part? It makes absolutely no sense. With some of the decisions made in this film. So I find it so crazy that they finally get to kind of, the thing that they were setting up in the first film. Apart from that, there's not really much going on. Sophia Boutella performance is as lackluster and as wooden as the first one. And, I've seen her in a few roles now, notably Kingsman, where I quite enjoyed her performance, where she didn't really say much, but, it was quite cool to see her on screen, stuff like that. She's not given enough material here to actually work with, and all the lines that are coming up is just sci-fi jargon thrown at the wall to make it sound like it's cool when actually it's coming off as really bad and kind of stonily put in place. Like, I haven't actually seen the film, but the dialogue sounds like what I've seen from the clips of Battlefield Earth. That's how bad the dialogue is for this film. Put behind a CGI wall, like I've said previously, like with lens flare thrown all over it and weird, unusual choices for slow motion shots that just don't make sense. Like pick and choose your shots. I know you're famous for them, but it's a film that's trying to capture individual moments and trying to kind of fill in the gap between them. But unlike his other films, where even though they've kind of not always pulled it off, there would be moments which make you go, "Oh, actually, that's pretty cool." And stuff like that. This film doesn't even have those moments. It doesn't even have points where you just go, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." It's just kind of attempts at it, and it doesn't quite make it every single time. The one criticism that Zack Snyder's had over the years is, that he goes for the big kind of shock moments or the big kind of images, the big kind of, individual moments within the film instead of focusing on the film itself. But I've always kind of respected the fact that that's his style of filmmaking. That's kind of what he goes for within his kind of direction and stuff like that. And that works for his films. It doesn't work here. It works when you've got an IP such as Batman and Superman, where you kind of understand the character roles in the first place. You understand where they're going, they understand their motivations. It works with Watchmen. It works with 300 because you've got that bedding of those characters in the first place. It doesn't work here because he's still trying to set up the universe whilst doing those same things. You need to set up the universe first, and then you have the right to put in those events, put in those things and stuff like that. And it just doesn't work on that scale. There are characters in this film which were given so little time talked over and so little kind of screen time that, I like I said, I can't even name two characters from this film. That's how kind of bad this film is. I described it to a friend as, usually when you're watching a film, you kind of try and block out the background noise, but the background noise overtook the noise of this film. You want to get distracted because it's so mind-numbingly boring to watch. And it's like they spend an entire hour training up the villagers. Now, that's straight out of Seven Samurai. We get that. But you don't need an hour to train up the villagers, especially on part 2 of a series where they're probably going to get a part 3. So much time dedicated to such a small plot point that isn't needed. It's fascinating how wrong this film went. I hope it gets studied for how wrong this film went. And like I said, so many convoluted backstories thrown together to the point where you don't understand whose backstory is who and stuff like that. You do get some actual character deaths in this film. At least there are stakes. That's one thing you could say. I know they had them in the last film as well, but the characters were barely introduced and then killed off. In this film, they're given a backstory before being, shot in the face. Yeah, truly, utterly awful film. I'll be watching part 3 with glee. Um, I'll be waiting for the part 3 release just to complete it, but also because, you know, I respect a director trying to tell a full story. And if this isn't quite the full story yet, then I need to wait until the full story is put out before I can actually, give a full verdict on it. So I'll be watching part 3 with absolute glee. And I want to hear what your thoughts are on Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. So please comment down below. Tell me what you think about it. And I will I'll read the comments and we'll start a discussion over it. Please also go onto our social media channels. That is on our link tree in the description down below. So you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also Letterboxd. And you can also go to our Redbubble link in the description as well. So that was my rambling review on Rebel Moon, which probably could provide more entertainment than the actual film itself. I'm intrigued to see what people think about this film and see what the debate is, because I feel like I've been quite nice on it by absolutely being really harsh on it. So we'll see on that one. And make sure to tune in, keep an eye on our socials, and we'll probably be having our monthly movie rundown of what we watched coming up soon. We'll also have some new releases coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing Challengers, hopefully this week as well. So please keep an eye on the channel for some new reviews, some new stuff coming out as well. Thank you ever so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.